rape, murder, especially of women and children, hijackings, gang violence, kidnappings for ransom, the construction mafia, and white-collar crime. These are the headaches that keep the new Minister of Police up at night. There's no doubt many South Africans do feel unsafe. We've been asking you this morning, on the scale of 1 to 10, how safe do you feel? And almost none of the voice notes, the texts, the WhatsApps we've received have said a number higher than 5. Of course, for many in the middle class, measures like private security and armed response subscriptions or living in gated communities have been ways to mitigate, but that's a fraction of the population, and even there are limits. So, will our new Minister of Police also be rushing to every scene, trying to grab headlines for all the wrong reasons, maybe even telling people to shut up? Minister Senzo Mchunu, a very good morning to you, and thank you for your time.
Good morning to you, and good morning to South Africans.
South Africans, that you mentioned there in your greeting, we just don't feel safe, Minister.
Yes, I agree. I live in South Africa, and I know I can confirm that that's the situation. But as you see, it's a situation that is man-made. It doesn't come from. It's not a natural disaster. It is a multifaceted kind of a situation, or is rooted in a number of factors. But that is not important to start analyzing that. What is important is what we do about it. We are set to deal with the situation, and it's not going to be easy, and it's not going to be and there's no shortcut to it.
Yeah,
but,
it's always the how, isn't it, Minister? I mean, many South
Yeah.
Africans would point to any number of threats and say, for example, organized crime seems to be a number of steps ahead. And even where there are clear threats, they've been identified for many years, they're still left to fester.
Yes, the first thing that we are in the process of doing is to engage the South African police that we are leading to say we now need to commit afresh to the situation, so that South Africans are not battling it out alone and they spend sleepless nights waiting to be victimized by the marauding gangs, the marauding individuals who are rapists, who are murderers, and all of that. And the situation, from generally speaking, from where we sit, is not insurmountable, although not easy. It's a situation that we have to employ a number of strategies. The first thing, as I've said, is to commit so that all of us, the members of the South African Police, who are mandated and who are expected to ratify this, stabilize the situation and eliminate this. Once you have their commitment and their conviction that they are the last line, they are the first and the last line in terms of defending the people, you have resolved almost 40% to 50% of your problem. The second thing is to use this opportunity that you are giving to us to say to South Africans, we're all into the thing, into this problem, and therefore don't look at it as a problem of the South African police and the and the minister and the ministry. Let us get into it, all of us, trusting one another. And I want to say to South Africans, you can trust us. We are here 24/7, and you have our numbers, and all we need to do is to collaborate.
Minister, I'm going to come in there. I hear your words around commitment, right, and the willingness to change things. But at times, some of the decisions that have been taken at the very top seem bizarre to me. And I'll give you one example. The fight between taxi organizations and bus operators that are attacked routinely. We've seen drivers and even passengers killed. That's exactly the kind of thing that I'm saying is not a random crime that just happens. It's been identified as a threat for many a year. There's clear orchestration, and it needs to be investigated. Instead, what we've seen, and now, of course, just this week, the High Court in Makhanda dismissing with costs, by the way, an appeal by not only the Eastern Cape Transport MEC, but also by National Police, when you were ordered to develop a plan to protect the buses from attacks by taxi operators. Instead, you went to the court and you said you didn't want to do that. I mean, not you personally, of course, but I mean National Police.
I was going to say that the next thing that we have to do almost right now is to say, what is the situation on the ground? Where are we with strategies and actions that are aimed at turning the situation around? There are things that are good that are being done. South African police are at work as I speak.
Minister, let's just deal with this example that I've given you now. Do you, for example, agree with the decision? Had you been minister, would you have supported that appeal in the Makhanda High Court?
Well, let me not necessarily directly respond to that because I'm just a week or so ago.
Sure, but just even philosophically, here's a bus operator that says, my drivers, my passengers are routinely attacked. I've had a driver killed. His colleagues couldn't even go to the funeral because the same perpetrators prevented them from doing so. He says, I need the police to protect us. Surely that's simple enough for you to tell us?
Yes, definitely. Everybody deserves protection, whether they are drivers of whatever bus or whatever car.
Sure. So why would the police then appeal a court order that says, give us a plan to show us how you're going to protect these citizens? Why would the police appeal that? And why would you agree with that decision?
That is exactly what I'm talking about. We need to say, where are we, which the South African police have done to us, to say, these are our strengths, these are our weaknesses, this is what we're doing, this is what we're not doing. And we have already identified gaps, and we've identified areas of improvement. And those, and we now know there are provinces that are more of a challenge than others when it relates to certain types of crimes. And we've done all that. We now are at a point where we say, what we now need to deal with the situation, in some cases head on. That's what I was talking about when I said it's clear that some of the matters are tough there. When you assume duty, you will find things like those, and and that's not the only one. And we then have to tackle those things. I agree with you. Those people deserve protection. Not only them, school kids going to school deserve that protection. Everybody in their homes when they are asleep, they deserve protection. And therefore, I agree with you that that's a challenge. That's one of the protruding challenges right now.
Minister,
and maybe,
isn't part of the problem here is that we simply don't have our priorities straight? And I'll give you two examples once more. We spend more money protecting VIPs than we spend in the fight against gender-based violence or against child violence. We waste significant amounts paying claims for things like wrongful arrest or police brutality. I think the figure I've got, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is 2.2 billion rand in the last 6 years. If all of that money was properly allocated and resourced where it is most needed, we wouldn't be here.
We have identified priorities, and we've gone public with the priorities, and we've identified matters. Or let me just say...
Are you okay with the idea that we spend more money protecting VIPs than helping the fight against gender-based violence?
No, look, it's necessarily as simple as that. What I agree with you is that murders or conduct crimes are a problem, and you are not going to solve one problem by jumping from one area to the other.
Sure, I understand that, but earlier in the interview, you acknowledged that South Africans feel unsafe. You said they must trust us. And South Africans listening to you now who are feeling unsafe are also hearing that more money is spent by the police protecting important people than them. How do they trust you in that instance?
There is 52% of the whole budget of the police that is allocated to visible policing. 52%. And the next allocation is around 20%, and the next is around 4%, and all of that. Now, we then have to go to the 52% and say this 52% deals with detection and so on and so on. And we balance our allocation, but it's not like we don't have a situation where you have to, in some cases, review your allocation. I said so in my public statement that some of the aspects of fighting crime require more resources. They need a review of allocation. We've said so simply because we see that there is a problem that is growing in terms of the aspect of our job, and that is what we are doing currently. And it's not about that amount being allocated there and so on and so on. It's to say, review the allocation. Let us tackle what seems to be the main problem in the country, and that is murders, that is rape, and we are onto it. And we believe that in time we will overcome this problem. I share your concern. But let's not isolate one factor and leave the whole issue, because one person whose stock has been repeatedly stolen by the same marauding people will say, we are left to dry alone because our stock is being stolen repeatedly and so on. People who are in Cape Flats, for instance, or are in Khayelitsha, who are under attack all the time, they feel the same. So
sure. I mean, look, I fully appreciate that we need a holistic approach. I fully appreciate we need a holistic approach. I also appreciate that you've made yourself available to speak to us, and I hope this will be the continuing trend in the time you are in office. I think every South African would agree with me that we wish you luck, we wish you success to keep all of us safe, and you and I certainly, hopefully, will speak again at some point in the near future. Minister of Police Senzo Mchunu there on the line. What's your response to what he had to say?
Current events, developing stories,
tough questions,
your voice making a difference.
This is Breakfast with Bongani Bingwa.